You guys asked for this, but in my last video, there was a lot of comments about Lani Sarem. So if Gloria Tesh was the amateur hour of fake authors, then Lani Sarem was the professional heist master. I dived into all of this and I just have to say, what the hell? What the hell is she thinking? We're going to talk about in this video a brief summary of what happened with Lani. And then I'm also going to tell you what Lani is up to right now. And let me tell you, just wait. Wait till you hear. So it's been 9 years since she tried to trick the New York Times bestseller list. Most scammers vanish when they get caught. But did she vanish? No. So first, a quick summary of what happened if you didn't hear about this or you just want to remember everything again, okay? So in 2017, Lani Sarem dropped Handbook for Mortals. She marketed it as young adult, but the main character is 25, which is the first weird thing. For context, YA usually caps at 19 years old. For a protagonist in a story, I would say 25 is pushing it. Amazon lists it as book 1 of a series, but spoiler alert, there's no book 2, there's only this one book, and so I just think it's strange that it still says book 1 of a series. So to scroll back in time when this book released and readers got their hands on it, there were a ton of just low reviews because the quality of the book was extremely lacking. The grammar is a mess. It reads like a shopping list of brands. She can't just write, the main character is wearing a t-shirt. She says she's wearing a Lucky brand t-shirt and she wears Levi's with tears in all the right places. It's crazy how many brands are listed in this book. I want you to check out Jenny Trout's blog post where she dissects the prose line by line. I was reading this blog from years ago, but I was reading it recently and just laughing hysterically because it's literally crazy, guys. Like this book doesn't sound like, first of all, it doesn't sound like an adult wrote it, and it also doesn't sound like the protagonist is 25 years old. It reads like fan fiction, but I've read good fan fiction. This is not that. So it's really wild how this one actually managed to find its way and be published. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I'm not going to get into the details of the actual writing and the grammar because that has been dissected by people who know much more than me and who have read the book and dived into it. I'm just going to point you in those other directions and we're going to continue on. So let's talk about all the celebrity weirdness with the situation. Before we can move any further, you have to know about this. The book is full of brand dropping, which is weird, but also name dropping. Lani used to manage the Plain White Tees, so they appear in the book as themselves, but she chose to swap the lead singer for Jackson Rathbone, who plays Jasper in Twilight. This person becomes the main character's love interest. And the main character is basically Lani. So it's a self-insert right there. It's all very strange. Just also to note, back in the day, she also used to manage Jackson Rathbone's band called 100 Monkeys. And in the book, we have so many other weird celebrity cameos. For example, Carrot Top, Wayne Newton. Okay. And then also JC Chazé from NSYNC gets involved weirdly because JC is her cousin. And so at one point he tweeted about the book and, offered support because I think it's just his cousin. So it just makes sense. It's just weird how many celebrities were name dropped in the book and also were involved in the book overall. Thomas and Nicholas from American Pie was also involved in this book. I don't want to get into all the details of all of that. There's a lot of that out there, but just know that it's like a random celebrity generator wrote a book and they picked out all these random actors and people and brands and shit, and just put it in this mess of a book. Then the impossible happened. The book hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, but it was out of stock on Amazon. It wasn't in Barnes & Noble. It had 9 reviews on Goodreads. But somehow 18,000 copies of the books were sold, and BookScan showed this. But there was no dagger symbol. So just so you know, a dagger symbol on the New York Times bestseller list denotes that there were bulk buying scenarios happening with that particular book. Happens a lot with celebrity biographies, political books. But there was no dagger symbol. Why? Because she bought just under the bulk limit at dozens of different stores to trick the reporting system. It was a calculated heist. Also, many stores reported receiving phone calls to order the book. But first, they asked if the store was a New York Times reporting store. If the answer was no, they did not order. She ordered just enough at each store to not be considered a bulk order. Therefore, New York Times wouldn't be marking the book with a dagger symbol, reserved for books on the list where bulk ordering was the reason for them being on the list. This book only stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for less than a day. It was quickly called out on Twitter, all across social media, saying like, this is a fraud, this is a scam, this book should not be on the New York Times bestseller list. It was quickly taken down, so within a day. So the YA community, social media, publishing people, everybody did some investigating, and even her former clients turned on her. So like I said, she used to manage some bands, and she used to also manage Blues Traveler. So they basically said, Blues Traveler said, yes, this is weird, but not surprising. We fired her for these kinds of stunts. Her sense of denial is staggering, and that was the first we've heard of this. I must say that she is keen never to miss a trick and really is a master at describing how her hair seems to her based on your selected excerpt. We wish her luck on this one. So they posted, a short snippet of the book where she's talking about her hair and how it looks. They're kind of poking fun at that a little bit. And then what's crazy is that Jackson Rathbone tweets, her sense of denial is staggering. Blues Traveler. Spot on, Mr. Popper. Spot on. I think that's absolutely insane and hilarious because she literally inserted him in the book as an actual character. It's him, right? And it's just so weird. And I'm sure he was not happy to be caught up in all of this drama too. So what was her defense on all of this? She claimed that she bought the books to sell at conventions and called it an innovative strategy from the music industry. 18,000 books. Really? No. And also, writers buy from their publishing house at a discount and don't actually order from stores to give out at conventions because they would literally make no profit. So that makes no sense at all. She's just trying to lie her way out of this. Then she wrote an op-ed, and this is with Billboard, and I'm going to link it below, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because I think this is insane. But it's part of this op-ed. She wrote her excuses, saying that she's doing something innovative that's from the music industry. But she also put, I created one of the bigger kerfuffles in the book publishing in late August. You're calling this a kerfuffle? Your kerfuffle was fraud. It was a scam. So while she's standing here saying, no, I didn't game the New York Times bestseller list, I honestly believe the steps I took were well within the rules. No, Lani, no, you knew the rules, and you had to have known the rules because you ordered just enough at each store to be under the amount. It doesn't make any sense. Your kerfuffle was fraud. It was a scam. It was fraudulent. Around this time, she even claimed that there were 5 movies in the works, all starring, you guessed it, her. So the thing is, if she aimed for the New York Times list and got number 20 or something, less people would have questioned it. But no, she needed to be number 1. It's the complete audacity for me. Also, The Hate U Give held the number 1 spot and was bumped down by this scam of a book. The Hate U Give is an important and legitimate book that deserves the number 1 spot. To get bumped down by a book that's honestly this terrible is awful. I also have to point out that the book has 985 reviews on Goodreads. She bought 18,000 books. Were any of these books ever read? No. Most people would hide in a hole after this happened to them because they have some sort of shame, right? Well, Lani went on tour 5 years later. She was still at conventions with banners asking if you like Harry Potter or Twilight, trying to funnel fans into her franchise. It's insane. Guys, and this is 5 years after the New York Times incident happened. She kept claiming the movie was happening. She dragged Thomas and Nicholas into it. She stayed delusional way longer than was comfortable. And we're going to talk about where she is now. And let's just say, your girl Lani is still living in complete delusion. So it's 2026. Is the movie still in development? Let's check IMDb. She has not changed the status of the movie. She's saying it's still in development. She also has some IMDb credits of her own from 2025. In 2025, she was in a movie called Delco as Church Girl, and she plays Adeline in a Western called Bad Men Must Bleed. And these are real movies that came out. So she is getting some work. I don't think it's because of all this happening. I think it's in spite of this happening. I don't know how she managed to get hired for these roles. It's actually beyond me. And I believe her main focus has been on acting. It appears like she has dropped her music career altogether. And has she dropped her book career? Well, let's look at that. But ladies and gentlemen, the real horror is her website. She still, on her Instagram, links to handbookseries.com. She still has that linked, yes. And if you click on this link, you'll experience the horror of this website. On her website, she also says Handbook for Mortals premiered in August 2017 as a USA Today bestseller and is already in the works to be made into a motion picture. This book has a distinction of being the only book to ever be number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list and then to be kicked off the list only 23 hours later. Now, to talk about this a little bit more, is that she became a USA Today bestseller. She was somewhere down the list after the whole shitstorm with New York Times was over, because I think some people were interested in what happened with all of that, and they actually picked up the book and read it, maybe, possibly, or at least bought it. The USA Today bestseller list is more based on actual sales. Like New York Times bestseller list doesn't seem to be, it's really not clear how authors get on the New York Times bestseller list. There's something going on there. But for USA Today, that's pretty much straightforward sales. So she did end up eventually on the USA Today bestseller list, but she wasn't number 1. She still has this on her website to this day. You can go click that link. You can check it out yourself. She's basically touting herself as being infamous and being the only author in history to get kicked off the list. And I don't think that's something to be proud of as an author. I think I see that and I immediately see red flags popping up in my mind. It doesn't seem like so much of a good thing as something you should avoid. So she brags about getting kicked off the list. She calls herself infamous. She's wearing the scam like a badge of honor. She's not admitting mistakes. She's doubling down. It's just so apparent. The website says the movie is set to debut in 2018. It is 2026. She never updated it. So Lani is still here, rewriting history, pretending the scam was just a wild ride, and honestly, she's doubling down on how it was cool that she was number 1 for a short amount of time. The movie never happened. And in my opinion, there's nothing about this movie happening out there. I scoured the internet. There's no evidence that it is under any sort of development. There was a screenplay written, which was the first thing that Lani wrote, and then she wrote the actual book. And the screenplay, there's actually in the link down below, I will link you the same blog we talked about earlier where someone dissected the screenplay itself, and it's just as terrible as the book, guys. It's just as terrible. So the movie never happened, but the audacity is very real. So again, most people caught in a scam would hide. Lani, she tried reframing reality. So let's look into some recent social media posts and figure out what Lani has been up to. I found a post from 2024 where she says, "Someone needed to hear this today. Rumors are passed by haters, spread by fools, and believed by idiots. People only rain on your parade because they are jealous of your sun and tired of their shade. Do not worry, they cannot stop you." This is where we get back to all my haters, all of that. We've seen this so many times when people, like, the controversy happens and they're like, well, you are just all jealous haters. And no, honey, never would I ever fake a bestseller for clout to try to get on a bestseller list because I want a terrible movie to be made. Girl, you're not a writer. Like, just straight up not a writer. And that's okay. Maybe you could work on your craft, but you're not going to be your first book. You want to publish that, and you want it to go straight to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, and you want to pay your way to get on there. You have to pay your dues, honey. You got to write a good book. Okay. All right. So anyway, she isn't apologizing. She's painting herself as the victim. You know, someone who, you know, basically bought her way onto the New York Times bestseller list. She's doing everything she can, you know, to make it look like she's the innocent person in all of this. She honestly believes that we are the villains for noticing that she bought her own books and bought her way onto the list. And the hustle never stopped. In 2018, she got Stan Lee to pose with her book. Just imagine the logistics: cornering a legend at a convention, making him hold your debunked bestseller. It's embarrassing, it's dumb, it's stupid. She seems to do this a lot. She takes the book to conventions and makes people weirdly pose with it, or she holds the book while she stands next to somebody, which is a little odd. And this is most odd because this goes on for years. She goes to conventions and Sundance after parties, and she makes, you know, random actors take pictures with her and sometimes with her book. And I just believe she posts only these things because she's trying so hard to seem relevant, to seem like, look at all these people in the industry I know, look how cool I am. And she's trying to paint this facade. We see this a lot from people who scam, who commit fraud. They want to paint an image of themselves and control their self-image in a very specific way. So she's trying to paint this image of herself as being this very successful actress. And so I've just noticed that a lot of the pictures are, you know, random people that she doesn't know. I have a picture of myself with Elijah Wood at a Comic-Con. Does that mean that I know Elijah Wood? No, it means that I met him at a Comic-Con and I took a picture with him. I do not know him. I think that maybe if she believes that she knows all of these celebrities, she's probably got some issues with parasocial relationships, and that could be a whole separate video. But I think she's constantly chasing this clout, chasing, like, I am a great actress, look at all these people that I know, etc., etc. So looking at these photos from the outside makes it look like she's some sort of like Hollywood royalty. But here's what I think though, you know, taking a selfie with, you know, any of these celebrities at a convention or at a Sundance party doesn't make you friends. It just means that you bought a ticket. It's all a manufactured reality. She's manufacturing what she wants to be seen as on social media. And that's what a lot of people do. Honestly, they create this persona of somebody else and they push it out there. I just think it's so inauthentic and annoying. And it reminds me of what she did in her book whenever she had a bunch of like actors name dropped in the book and also like random brands. She just constantly wants to be like, look at me, look how great I am, look how cool I am, look at all these people I know. It's just, oh, it's exhausting. Imagine if your life was like that, like constantly chasing clout. Girl, just do you. Like, stop trying to manufacture your image constantly. So where is she now, you know, as we sit here in 2026? She has not posted in 2026, but in 2025, she hit several red carpet events. She went to Cannes, she attended the SAG Awards, something called Smoky Mountain Fan Fest, where she appeared to be a guest. And she also moderated panels. All of these panels seem to be Teen Wolf, The Vampire Diaries, Twilight. And so she's been doing this for a few years now. She's been moderating these panels. She's inserting herself into the exact fandoms that she tried to trick back in 2017. She's literally moderating panels for the actors where she tried to copy, their fandom. I don't know who is letting her moderate the panels. Like, do they know who she is and what she's done? How does she get into these situations where she is the one moderating? And that's unusual to me, and I would like to dig into that more to figure that out. Who in their right mind would want someone with this much bad press moderating all of these panels? I would say it's from someone who has planned conferences in the past. It's actually quite hard to find a moderator, and I think some organizations can be pretty desperate, especially if it's a last minute thing or if it's a small convention. You're really desperate to get people to fill the seat, and especially for someone to moderate, because you need them to be ready with questions and ready, to work the crowd. And I don't think everybody's up for that. I'd like to see how she is doing this. She's apparently done this a lot. I just think it's an unusual choice. She also hasn't let go of the past. She still is posting photos, hanging around with the Plain White Tees crew, proving that she's still in the mix. She's still relevant to everybody. But let's look at the actual product, the book that this is all about. Can you still buy it? Yes. The Kindle version is $8.99, but the hardcover is $6.45. When the physical hardcover is cheaper than the digital file, something went wrong with the supply and demand. You can buy a used copy for $1.37. The market has spoken, and it says, please take this. We have too much of this. Please take it. They're basically giving it away because there was such a bad issue with supply and demand for this book, and it's so apparent. So where does that leave us today? Lani continues to live in her delusion almost a decade after the book situation happened, her kerfuffle or whatever she says. And the real horror isn't the scam. It's that in the entertainment industry, bad attention is still currency. She didn't do the work. She didn't write a good book. She tried to buy the reward without the effort. And does she regret it? Absolutely not. She is emboldened. She is on the red carpet. She wore the scandal-like armor, and it worked. At least enough to get her a couple acting jobs in the last year. She proved that if you're shameless enough, you can force your way into a room. But how long does that help you? And how many rooms does that really help you get in? And how many doors does that actually shut? And I would argue that more doors have shut for her than have opened. She's not an author. She is cosplaying as an author, hoping that it will get her into all the right rooms. She wants to write for money and fame only. And I'm sure that there are some authors watching right now. Yeah, maybe you. Now, maybe you'll agree with me that if she wanted to do something to be rich and famous, she should do something other than write a book. There are easier ways to be rich, everybody, and writing a book is not a way to get rich quick. It's just not. There are so many people with this crazy delusion that they're going to write a best-selling novel and it's going to be easy and it's somehow going to lead to a great movie deal and fame and fortune. It's just so crazy to me. I've written 4 novels. I have tried to get 2 of them published. Guys, it's hard out there. It is so hard. Some people outside of the industry might look at, big outlier series and compare themselves and say, well, I could do that. That doesn't seem that hard. I can write some words down. Listen, Linda, that is so hard. You don't know why it's so hard to get a bestseller, like a real bestseller. That takes so much dedication, hard work, planning, the right people in your court, like doing work in and out, like the work. And you might not make $1. That's the thing. You have to be willing to fail miserably if you want to be an author. It's not a get rich quick scheme, okay? But there are legitimate ways also to get on the bestseller list. Writing a great book helps. But trying to trick the New York Times with a credit card and a dream, that's a bold strategy. And I just want to talk about this, is that the book apparently ends with this line: they lived happily ever after. Or did they? That's literally the last line. They lived happily ever after. Or did they? I guess Lani lived happily ever after because she's just so deep in her delusion. I feel she could never see this any other way. She feels like she's right. She feels like she's right. She feels like we're wrong. She doesn't even see what she did was wrong. No one will ever get through her delusion. Her delusion is so thick and strong. She's done. It's over. I remember when all of this went down, you know, when it originally happened back in 2017. And I remember hearing about it. I watched a couple videos at the time, but I did not dive in and dig into all the details. And honestly, to do this now, it was crazy learning about all of this. But it's even crazier to know that she still has the website in her bio on Instagram. Guys, what? Like, what? She's holding on to all of this for years. Anyways, if you can think of any other examples like this of fake author schemes and stuff like this, I really enjoy this. Or a breakdown of a specific author and their career and how they were successful. Like, I love looking at all of that and dissecting that. Like an author that did really well or an author that didn't do very well, and like comparing those. If you have any, you know, suggestions for what we want to dive into next, like let me know in the comments, and I would love to do, you know, a ton of research like that. This took a ton of research, guys. I was screenshotting everything. It was insane. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you more than you know. Subscribe and like the video if you want more deep dives like this, and if you want to join our little community here. I appreciate you so much. I'm still a very new channel here on YouTube. I am learning the ropes, so feedback is good. So definitely feel free to give me feedback in the comments. I read everything. I put a lot of work into these videos, but I very much enjoy making these. I love deep diving into things that happen, like scandals that happened in the past, uncovering everything, and then looking at what, you know, where are they now? Like, I love that kind of thing. These have been really fun for me, and your support, you hitting the subscribe button, you hitting like is showing me that, like, hey, maybe I should keep doing this, and I really just enjoy it, guys. I just really do. So thanks for being cool. Thank you. But I will see you next Sunday with another video. All right, stay spooky. Bye.